Your brain is running a marathon your calendar never warned you about. By midday, you've already waded through hundreds of small choices and interruptions, emails, chat pings, meeting invites, background noise. These inputs stack up until even simple decisions feel impossible. No wonder by 4 p.m. you're staring at the fridge like it's a logic puzzle. Your body looks fine on the outside, but your mind is begging for a reset. Science shows it takes up to 20 minutes to fully recover focus after an interruption. That's why exhaustion today isn't about muscle strain, it's about running biology in the wrong environment. And if it feels strange that sitting all day leaves you this drained, it's because the world around you isn't built for the body and brain you inherited. The biology mismatch. Picture the daily reality of early humans. Most waking hours revolved around motion, stalking game, digging for roots, hauling water, or trekking to temporary shelter. Energy was balanced between physical work and quick judgment calls. Fast forward to now and the imbalance is striking. We spend most of our hours stationary, staring at screens. And at the end of the day, it's rarely sore muscles that bother us, it's mental fatigue. This is the essence of the biology mismatch. Our energy systems evolved for bursts of physical survival, but our current environment funnels that same machinery into constant cognitive strain. The stress response illustrates this gap. For tens of thousands of years, a snap of a branch or a shadow in the distance triggered an adaptive surge. Heart racing, cortisol spiking, body primed to act. In today's workplace, those same circuits often interpret digital alerts and interruptions as threat-like signals. The difference is that instead of a handful of true emergencies in a week, we face dozens or even hundreds of minor disruptions in a single workday. Each ping or flashing notification nudges the nervous system into arousal. While the magnitude may not match a chase through the savannah, the fact that it repeats so frequently is why stress levels often stay elevated longer than biology intended. Part of the strain comes from what doesn't follow. When our ancestors' alarms went off, running or fighting siphoned away the stress hormones. In the office, you stay seated. The body mobilizes as if preparing to sprint, but the sprint never arrives. Muscles remain idle while stress chemicals swirl unspent. Researchers studying long bouts of sedentary, interruption-heavy work show that cortisol takes longer to return to baseline under these conditions, compared with periods of active work or intentional rest. That's why even when you aren't physically tired, the fatigue feels cellular and hard to shake. It's the nervous system looking for a destination it never reaches. You can think of this as metabolic misdirection. The brain burns an outsized share of the body's energy. Every time attention diverts to a new stimulus, glucose consumption rises. This is manageable in small doses, but when dozens of interruptions layer in across a day, the energy drain is abrupt and sustained. Evidence on attention residue supports this. After being pulled away, people take on average between 15 and 23 minutes to fully regain focus. Now pair that with findings that typical office workers are interrupted every few minutes. The math captures why we collapse without understanding where the effort went. The brain is sprinting constantly, recovering rarely. For many people, the sensation of arriving home unable to plan dinner or fold laundry feels like weakness or lack of will. But the pattern is biological, not personal. Our nervous system expects a rhythm of effort and release, physical action followed by recovery. Modern life instead delivers mental burden without the counterweight of movement. The mismatch isn't only in what triggers stress, but in how the cycle fails to resolve. That's why researchers describe today's condition as chronic activation, not in the sense that the system never quiets, but that it often stays elevated far past what survival requires. Over days and weeks, the wear becomes cumulative. It's important to stress that this doesn't mean the brain is broken. It's working exactly as it should in an environment it never evolved to handle. An email notification doesn't match the severity of a predator encounter, yet the circuitry treats it as a signal requiring vigilance. Calendar reminders, pop-ups, unread badges, each one a whisper that something needs immediate attention. The mind listens closely, flooding the body with readiness signals, but nothing physical burns off the surge. Over time, the baseline shifts toward fatigue that feels unearned, a constant low-level exhaustion hard to attribute to any one event. This cycle explains modern contradictions, how you can run a few miles and feel sharp afterward, but collapse after a day of sitting, scrolling, and toggling between tabs. Movement distributes energy use across muscles and restores balance. Digital interruptions pile energy costs almost exclusively onto the brain. And the mismatch amplifies because these interruptions never arrive all at once. They drip in, just enough to keep recovery out of reach. Studies confirm that hormonal spikes linger longer in sedentary, high-interruption settings than in active ones. That means the tiredness you carry home isn't imagined, it's measurable, built into stress chemistry itself. There's also a psychological toll. Because the fatigue stems from sitting still, people mistake it for personal inadequacy. Workers think they shouldn't feel this drained because they barely moved. But the depletion is real, and its cause is structural. We've engineered an environment that asks the nervous system to fire too often, without offering the outlets it requires to reset. When the same stress pathways repeat all day, without resolution, the signal that once protected survival becomes the very reason decision-making and focus falter. Understanding this shift helps reframe blame. Feeling exhausted after a desk job is not proof of weakness. It's proof that your wiring is still human, carrying expectations forged by movement and scarcity, now asked to operate in a flood of alerts and stillness. The stress machinery revs, but the gears aren't engaged. Fuel burns, but nothing moves. Left unacknowledged, this mismatch can convince anyone they're underperforming, when in fact their biology is simply responding to misplaced signals. What this leaves us with is an invisible drain on energy. You sit still yet run empty, precisely because of the way stress reactions interact with modern routines. The mismatch isn't dramatic, it's subtle, constant, and cumulative, and it sets the stage for the next layer of the problem: why energy seems to vanish on days where you feel like you barely did anything at all. The silent battery drain. The hidden tax comes next, the silent battery drain that wears you down almost invisibly. You may not notice it moment to moment, but it builds until your mind feels heavy and unresponsive. Unlike a single major task that clearly demands effort, these drains come from minor, incomplete triggers that barely register. They sneak under your awareness, but they claim slices of energy all day long. Take unread emails as an example. A vague subject line like "quick question" sits in your inbox unresolved. You haven't opened it, but your brain hasn't dropped it either. It hangs there like an open loop waiting for closure, occupying a fraction of working memory. Or those meeting pauses, when someone asks for input, silence stretches, and you wonder whether to speak up or hold back. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. Inside, your nervous system has tightened, rehearsing possibilities. Neither of these moments looks like real work, yet both tax the same circuits that fatigue you later. This is what makes silent drain tricky. The triggers don't feel significant. They rarely change heart rate or breathing, but each one adds to the pile. The light hum overhead, the flicker from a coworker's phone, the slight background buzz of your environment, all of it nudges attention just enough that you never return to neutral. At first, it's almost unnoticeable, but the effect compounds across hours, like coins building weight in a pocket. By evening, what felt light in the moment has grown into a load that slows every step. Research on attention residue shows how persistent these costs are. When you switch from one task to another, say from reading an email thread to answering a chat, you never fully snap clean. Part of your attention remains tethered to the task you left. Stack enough of these fragments, and you start carrying dozens of incomplete threads at once. And here's the important anchor. Research shows your brain can take 23 minutes to fully refocus after an interruption. That means even minor disruptions ripple into long shadows of distraction you may not even notice. This is why light, scattered days often feel heavier than direct, demanding ones. Deep focus tasks engage sustained attention, allow closure, and release mental load at the end. Microdrains don't provide that payoff. They keep threads open, leaving no reset point. It's not that micro-interruptions are always more damaging than big tasks. It's that their cumulative weight without closure erodes focus in a way a single stretch of deep work does not. You're left with cognitive clutter, like background tabs that never close, siphoning memory and energy. Imagine that by late afternoon you need to decide what to cook for dinner. It's a tiny decision, yet it feels impossibly heavy. That's not laziness, it's mental taxation. Every open loop takes a share of your resources, and by the end of the day, everything meaningful is already spoken for. For someone like Productive Patty, who prides herself on getting things done, this can feel like hitting a wall. But you're not lazy, you're carrying small unfinished tasks in your head. And that load explains why you can't bring yourself to make even simple choices. The frustration grows because our brains rarely signal energy depletion accurately. With physical exertion, muscles fatigue, and you feel the burn. With cognitive exertion, there's no meter or warning. Tasks keep piling on, and you continue to push, unaware that control resources are already depleted. Then suddenly, you tip off the cliff, dragging your cursor, staring at a screen without reading, moving through tasks without direction. The crash feels abrupt when really it was accumulating silently. Too often, people assume the crash is personal weakness. They blame themselves for failing at easy days. But research instead points to the structure of modern work, the layered interruptions, unpredictable waits in meetings, constant small alerts. These are built into the system, not defects in personal willpower. Environments rich in micro-disruptions almost guarantee that workers finish depleted, regardless of how light the agenda looked on paper. It's structural fatigue disguised as inefficiency. And the difference between obvious fatigue and this invisible one is striking. After a long workout, muscles ache, but the mind feels earned and clear. After a scattered day, the body feels fine, but the brain feels gray and blank. It's the fatigue of fragments, mental loops never closed, energy diverted into constant low-level vigilance. That's why small fixes matter more than people expect. Silencing repeating notifications, batching similar tasks, setting clear boundaries to close loops. Each tweak doesn't just save minutes. It prevents residue from hanging around for hours. The silent drain doesn't scream for attention. It hums in the background. You don't feel spikes of exertion. You feel fog that makes ordinary life harder than it should be. That fog makes sense once you see it's generated by unresolved fragments. The cost isn't catastrophic blowouts. It's the accumulation of pings, pauses, and tiny pulls that prevent the brain from achieving resolution. When clarity never arrives, rest never does either. So the picture is clear. Small interruptions don't just irritate you, they redirect fuel away from where you need it most. They explain the kind of exhaustion that slips in without warning, making routine choices difficult and evenings feel like obstacles. And they don't drain you only by their presence. Each one sticks around, lingers, and drags attention forward. The explanation isn't weakness. It's the cost of mental residue repeating hour after hour. And that leads to the next challenge. Because every interruption doesn't just disrupt. Every switch you make comes with its own hidden tax, and multiplying that across a day creates a whole new level of drain. Switching and little demands don't just annoy you, they silently eat your fuel. Next comes the cost of constant switching. The cost of constant switching. Most of the hidden drain comes from constant pivots, the cost of switching. On paper, it looks harmless. Respond to a message, glance at a calendar, hop back into your main project. But those shifts are not neutral. Cognitive science calls them switch costs, the measurable loss in time and accuracy when moving between tasks. Each one looks small, yet when they repeat all day, the losses add up to hours. Multitasking feels like efficiency in motion. You open your inbox while still half listening to a meeting, or you alternate between editing numbers in a spreadsheet and typing into a chat box. It feels productive because the brain gives you a quick jolt of novelty each time you pivot. But the truth is, our brains can't do two demanding things at once. They toggle rapidly. And with every toggle, fragments remain behind. That leftover processing has a name: attention residue. After a switch, your brain doesn't instantly clear the previous context. Studies show it can take meaningful time to fully re-engage, often 15 to 20 minutes to regain prior concentration after an interruption. That means a notification you answered in 20 seconds quietly stole another 20 minutes from the focus you thought you still had. Multiply by dozens of interruptions, and entire portions of the day slip away without obvious explanation. Imagine writing a report. You're mid-sentence and a Slack notification pings. You skim it, type a 2-line response, and flip back to the report. In your head, you took a 30-second detour. But in reality, your mind now carries traces of both conversations, unfinished thoughts from the messaging thread, and the half-built sentence from your report. They compete in working memory. That confusion you feel when the words suddenly won't line up isn't distraction in the usual sense. It's the residue of the switch still humming. This is why multitasking is such a misleading term. We have the sensation of parallel action, but what's actually happening is rapid cycling, each shift carving away at efficiency. Researchers who measure these cycles find that knowledge workers switch very frequently, often every few minutes. And the more frequent the switches, the steeper the productivity drop. Some roles, like customer service or emergency response, require fast shifting because responsiveness matters more than depth. But for most knowledge work, the toll of constant pivots outweighs any apparent benefit. Sustained attention simply produces higher quality, faster work when compared against fragmented focus. The emotional layers of switching complicate it further. You can move from a calm budgeting task into a tense email from a colleague, then back again. The numbers on the screen don't carry emotion, but your nervous system does. That edge of irritation follows you back into the spreadsheet, consuming energy without your noticing. An hour later, a brainstorming session suffers not just from cognitive residue, but emotional residue too. These unacknowledged crossovers wear out clarity as much as the constant toggling of tasks. Surveys of modern professionals quantify the cost. Averaged over a week, frequent switchers lose nearly a full workday to fragmented attention. That's 6 or 7 hours gone, not to procrastination, but to mechanics. Each small pivot taxes your energy like a toll booth you can't skip. Leave one project midway, answer a chat, return, and you've paid twice, once in what was left behind, and again in the ramp-up to the new focus. A few tolls are manageable. Hundreds in a day explain why you reach evening running on fumes. And yet, switching feels rewarding in the moment. Each notification delivers a mild spark of novelty, a tiny burst of stimulation. The brain interprets this as progress, even if no single thread moves forward meaningfully. Over time, this trains your system to crave constant inputs. It creates a habit loop, scanning screens, checking inboxes, refreshing feeds. The busyness feels real, but the depth never arrives. Energy is exhausted while projects stall in half-finished stages. Think of your brain like a laptop forced to run too many programs at once. Nothing crashes outright, but everything slows. You can still type, read, and click, but try to render something complex and performance stutters. That's what constant context switching does at a biological level. Memory fragments fight for bandwidth, processing speed decreases, and concentration drains faster than it refills. The result shows up both in your body, as fatigue, and in your output, as smaller achievements stretched over longer hours. And the damage doesn't limit itself to work hours. Mental bandwidth that dissipates during the day leaves evenings clouded. Cooking dinner, making weekend plans, even choosing what to watch requires mental clarity to settle decisions. But the capacity spared earlier was already eaten by 1,000 pivots. By the time you want your energy for personal life, the reserves are gone. You're left staring at choices that feel heavier than they should. The important subtlety is that switching isn't evil in every situation. Some jobs demand rapid movement and varied attention. But for roles where the value comes from creating, solving, or thinking deeply, frequent toggling acts like a surcharge you can't recover. Understanding this doesn't mean eliminating every pivot. It means treating each one as costly instead of neutral. Accept the fee when it's necessary, but avoid paying dozens of them without noticing. A practical micro-step is to bundle the pivots instead of paying them all day long. Consider batching your messages into fixed windows, checking email at set times rather than on every ping. It doesn't erase all switches, but it reduces them enough to let focus stabilize. That stabilization is where you reclaim lost hours, not by extending your day, but by preserving attention. Even a few fewer switches unlock disproportionate returns because each one comes loaded with hidden recovery time. When you view switching as a fee instead of a shortcut, the exhaustion of modern work begins to make sense. It's not that your projects are impossible or that your capacities are failing. It's that your energy was sliced into fragments by design all day long. And when attention keeps splintering, tasks take more time while leaving you with less left over. The output suffers, and so does the sense of clarity you carry into the rest of life. That loss of clarity explains the strange moments of paralysis after a long day. Because switching doesn't just cut work efficiency, it leaves decision-making capacity thinner, worn down by hundreds of unacknowledged pivots. And that feeds directly into another hidden tax your brain pays each day, one that shows up not in the office, but the moment you're asked to make even the simplest of choices.